Today's story is called Anancy and Crocodile.
The hot summer months were over, and it was getting cooler. Anancy was pleased as now the breadfruit trees were bearing. He just had to pick the breadfruits. And with the showers in the nights, the rivers were full of water again. And Anancy could do what he liked to do most: catch crayfish. In the mango season, he didn't bother to cook. He just turned the pot down and ate only mangoes, morning, noon, and night. And in the breadfruit seasons, he stuck to breadfruit. Boiled breadfruit, breadfruit fritters, breadfruit balls, roast breadfruit.
Man. That sounds nice.
How do you like your breadfruit? Roast or fry? Roast or fry?
Cause you the only ones that make.
Anyway, boiled breadfruit, breadfruit fritters, breadfruit balls, roast breadfruit, breadfruit stewed in coconut milk, also known as rundown, and crayfish. Anancy loved crayfish soup and curry crayfish, but he liked best the crayfish steamed with onions, garlic, tomatoes, bell pepper, scallion, and thyme. Now, not far from the river mouth, a kind of barricade made up of sand and gravel had been created, and therefore, further up the river course, the fast-running water expanded and encircled a small island. So picture that, okay? So picture it. Listen again. Not far from the river mouth, a kind of barricade made up of sand and gravel.
Daddy, what's a barricade?
Something that's blocking other things.
Okay.
So not far from the river mouth, a kind of barricade made up of sand and gravel had been created, and therefore, further up the river course, the fast-running water expanded and encircled a small
What does
island.
encircle mean?
So you know what a circle is?
Yeah.
So encircle is to go around something. So it's surrounded in a circle.
Okay.
There, Anancy was squatting on boulders, and cautiously he turned every stone and small boulder. Aha! How the crayfish escaped to try hiding under the stones. Aha! And how Anancy grabbed them and threw them into a bucket. He could hardly wait to drop them into the pot. Now, the first bucket was full, the second one half full. It started to drizzle. It made no matter to Anancy. In his hunting fever, he forgot that at the upper course of the river, it must have rained heavily already. He didn't pay attention to the clouds gathering at the mountaintop. He was just glad that the sun didn't burn anymore. Thus, the current was getting faster, and the two river arms enclosing the small island were getting deeper and deeper. When it was too late, Anancy noticed that the water had become too deep to wade through to the bank. The water gurgled alongside him, carrying and uprooting trees along the way. Now, Anancy was getting terribly frightened. He hoped that the swelling river would burst the barrier between the pond and the sea that the river mouth had formed, so that after a good while the water level would fall, so that Anancy very carefully could wade through the river to reach the bank. The shower stopped as fast as it had begun. But now it was getting dark. Anancy was getting frightened again. And he was right, because now, as he looked down the river course, he saw some tree trunks, very long tree trunks, which lay beside the river, gliding into the water. They swam towards him against the current. Anancy suppressed a shout. He placed his hand on his lips, because these were not tree trunks. These were the big crocodiles, more than 12 feet long, who lived not far from the river mouth. Suppose they saw him too? Totally shocked, Anancy looked out for help. But here, no shotguns grew in trees. Here, not even a gungo tree could be seen. Not a fig tree, nor a duppy tree full of wisps where he could use to climb. He imagined the ugly reptile's sharp teeth aimed at him. teeth which could bite a wild pig in two with one snap. Anansi closed his eyes and he racked his brain to find an escape, a chance to avoid a terrible, terrible bite by the crocodile. Anansi imagined how one of these monsters would bite him and the other crocodiles then would just look and wait for to get their piece. He nearly fainted, but then he got an idea. He opened his eyes. It looked as if the crocodiles had not seen him yet, and so he said to himself, attack is the best defense. So he jumped up and began to dance on the spot, waving his arms and throwing his hat into the air and shouting, "Yo, come right here, some brother crocodile." The huge reptile which was nearest to him opened his huge snout and blinked his eye in surprise and stammered, "Me's nobody, brother man. Me's Alga." "Oh, Sister Alga," Anansi cried. "Most beautiful of all she crocodile within 10 miles. Make me hug your cousin Alga." "Your cousin?" the reptile replied. "Me no know nothing about any little ugly cousin like you." And it waded ashore.
Ugly.
But what is this?" Anansi shouted. "For your mama never tell you about me. She did hold me over the baptism font. She's for me godmother. Yeah man, me's your cousin, and as a present me carry a whole bucket of crayfish for you." He told the crocodile why and how he got stuck on this tiny island in the middle of the river and asked to be carried through the river to the banking. "That unbelievable," Olga whispered, and then she roared, "If you wasn't for me cousin, me woulda nyam you right here so." "Me know," Anansi replied. "You is famous for that. Come me invite you for dinner. Make we run down the crayfish. Make we simmer them in some coconut milk." That's how some people say it sometimes. They don't say coconut. Then say coconut. Coconut milk. "No," Olga grunted. "Me only nyam raw meat." "Raw meat?" Anansi cried. "Yeah man, me just bite up everything delicious and swallow it. And right now, me got something better for do than cook for you." "Well, whatever it may be, me going to help your dear cousin," Anansi said. And he jumped on the crocodile's back. He didn't look to the right, neither to the left. He was afraid of all the other crocodiles' looks. So Olga glided into the water and swam where she had come from. Without making any noise, the other monsters followed her. Anansi felt their hungry eyes on his little backside, the only piece of flesh on him that might be worthy of a good bite. Go on.
As soon as the crocodiles reached the riverbank, Anansi turned around, and to his great surprise, he noticed how all these dangerous reptiles cast warm and tender glances and bid him a sincere. Daddy, what's the sincere?
It means genuine and real.
Okay, sincere farewell, as all of them waddled to the different spots along the river. Surprised, he turned to the crocodile he had called cousin to save his life. And he noticed the same tender expression on Olga's face. "Come," he said warmly, "a time for wash the egg them. Me can do that for you." Anansi replied, "In the meantime, you can cook for me." "Me not cook," Olga roared. "Listen good. Me take the egg them out of the basket and you polish them. See how me trust you, and you give me them back to me."
No, Anansi said. "Better the other way around. You is the mother, and as all good mothers, You know that fi dress up and sweet up the picnic them for Sunday. Just imagine say me drop a egg by mistake. That would have terrible. So Olga waddled to her house, and after a short while she came back with a basket and a leather rug. They then went to the river. Up the river course, 6 female crocodiles could be seen taking eggs out of baskets, washing them, drying them, and putting them back. Olga handed Anancy her basket. He placed it on the earth, took an egg out of the basket, and handed it to Olga. To his astonishment, it was already clean, so he counted 1. Without turning round, Olga repeated 1, breathed on the egg, cleaned it tenderly, held it against the light, and gave it back to Anancy. He took out the second egg, sucked it out, and handed back the first clean egg to Olga. 2, Anancy said. Yes, 2, Olga agreed. Anancy sucked the next egg out of the basket. Without turning her head, Olga gave him back the cleaned egg. 3, Anancy shouted, and he sucked out the next egg. Each time he handed over the very same clean egg to Olga. 9 other eggs he sucked out. Then he covered the 9 sucked out eggs and the one that was cleaned all the while with a kitchen towel, as he had seen it when Olga carried the basket, and so it was he who carried the basket to the hatching hut. Coming back, he saw Olga flossing her dangerous lower jaw teeth and smiling at him. Well, after we're done for we work, you supposed to help me reach the other river bank. Anancy cried, hoping the reptile would not notice the trembling of his voice. He just grabbed the 2 buckets with the crayfish, jumped on Olga's back, and pressed his heels into her sides. She waddled to the riverbank and glided into the water. If you wasn't me cousin, me woulda, Olga said and laughed. But cousin, Anancy smiled, me's too maga. Maga? Maga me neck back, Olga cried. Me never make a nice little snack past me yet. They reached the other bank, and when Anancy was about to bid a short but polite farewell, they could hear a huge noise from the other river bank. Olga's best sister had just discovered that in her basket, 9 of the 10 eggs were sucked out. Fast like lightning, Anancy grabbed his buckets and ran as fast as possible. Too late! Olga realized how Anancy had tricked her. It was the first time a huge monster like a crocodile bawled and shed tears. From that day, we call this crocodile tears. And from that day, all of us, man and woman, boy and girl, and all animals, take good care not to go too near to crocodiles, for if you get too close to one, it will remember how a tiny, feisty man had tricked a crocodile. That is the reason why all crocodiles want revenge. Is Anancy make it? Jack Mandora?
Me not choose none. Aye, aye, aye.